Hello everyone, I hope you're great. In this very important video, we're going to talk about stress. So the normal stress response is, say you're walking down the road, a vehicle's coming towards you, you see the stimulus, you get activated into your sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight. You reflexively jump out of the way. So during that time, your heart rate increases, your blood pressure increases, blood rushes to your muscles and away from other essential parts of your body, and your body's completely activated and ready to act, and you're alert. So normally then, if you weren't too impacted and you're safe fairly quickly over a period of minutes or at most an hour or two, the body goes back to a normal state of homeostasis, back to the parasympathetic nervous system, which means you're more relaxed, calm state, and blood goes back more balanced to your brain and other parts of your body as well. So in our society, we have chronic stress, and chronic stress is happening because psychologically we're self-inducing a lot of stress, and we're ruminating a lot in our brain, and we're almost chronically in a state of stress. We're too often we're in the sympathetic nervous system, and our cortisol and adrenaline and other stress hormones are highly elevated too often. And that causes inflammation in the body. Too much inflammation in the body can lead to anxiety, depression. It can lead to metabolic disorder. It can lead to insulin resistance, diabetes, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, as well as even contribute to some cancers from the inflammation and the harsh impact in the body. So our number one job should be, for a lot of us, is to get the stress down. And there's two ways to get the stress down in general: short-term and long-term. The short-term things we can start doing is creating boundaries and getting rid of people in our lives that cause us stress, to increase our standards that we have for the people that we allow into our life. And another one, of course, is meditation. Mindfulness is to clarify boundaries and standards with your boss and your employer about your if you're being exploited through too many work hours, through creating rules and common expectations with your partner over how to deal with arguments and stress, as well as getting out of any relationships that are being a burden on you. Some long-term things is, if you don't like your job, or if you have a difficult supervisor, is eventually finding a job you love, finding a better job, and finding maybe a more kind or compatible supervisor and job situation. Some other long-term things is moving towards financial freedom to decrease the financial stresses. Many people who are in poverty and who are struggling financially, that's a major source of chronic stress. Things like increasing your self-esteem and building your self-worth, that's a long-term project that really doesn't happen overnight. Things like increasing your self-esteem so you attract in people that are more simpatico with you and less dramatic and less chaos and conflict that causes stress. Those are some examples of some long-term things, long-term strategies that you should vision and consider working on. And short-term things, of course, some other examples are regulating your sleep, creating a great sleep environment and sleep hygiene so that you try to go to bed and to wake up around the same time every day, preferably around 8 hours. Whole foods in your diet, minimizing smoking and alcohol if you can, if you wish, as well as things like the boundaries that you have with people. And some other long-term things might be learning about parenting if you're a parent, learning about mindful parenting, as well as the impact that your stress has on your children. People who grow up in stressful environments, growing up, a lot of times it's not really the parents' fault, because they were likely doing the best they could with their level of consciousness and the resources, the time and space they were born. My parents' generation and their parents' generation, there wasn't much talk about mental health. There wasn't much understanding of psychology. It wasn't a common everyday doorstep thing. So that's only the last maybe 20 to 40 years that's becoming more in vogue, and people are more accepting going to therapists, mental health language, understanding our brain, understanding our emotions, our stress, being mindful and aware of it. is a huge thing. So but many people in my generation and many people in today's world, they come from a stressful environment. Their parents did the best they could, but they weren't fully present, or they were worried about their job, they were worried about the economic situation, they're worried about all their individual concerns, and that impacted the kid who grew up in stress. All their needs may not have been consistently met, consistent attention, consistent affection, because the parents were preoccupied with certain other things. So if you grew up in that environment, which is many of us, then you're already predisposed to be stressed, and your body can become addicted to the stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, and you actually recreate situations and create conflict and drama in your life and difficulties just so your body can meet that addiction to stress, to those stress hormones, and that becomes your new normal. But it's most certainly not normal. Like Gabor Maté says in the Myth of Normal, just because things are normal, it doesn't mean that they're healthy. So recognize that in yourself, self-awareness. And a lot of people their brain, their ego likes to deny that they have mental health issues, but having a brain, being human, means that we have mental health issues. And the more humble and the more aware and conscious and informed and educated we become, the better we're more equipped to manage and take charge of our mental health life. So that's some tips for you. Again, normal stress is part of evolution, part of survival. But being human, our chronic stress and our rumination and our imagining fear situations, FEAR, fear, fantasized experiences appearing real, that can be managed. And in this video, go back and pick a couple things that you're going to use. Start today to short-term strategies to minimize your stress, and then think about your long-term strategies and coming up with a strategic long-term vision and plan and goals to get that stress down. Getting the stress down, for most of us, we're in a stress epidemic in our world today. Our number one job for a lot of us should be to get the stress down. And that's going to make us a happier person, a better parent, likely increase your longevity, increase your quality of life. That's why it's got to be job number one. Bye-bye.